He's gone. And now, everyone wants to talk about how great he was. But where were those voices when he was still here? That is the question Tony Stewart is asking out loud right now, and trust me, it is hitting people hard across the entire NASCAR world. Because the truth is uncomfortable. And Stewart is not letting anyone avoid it. But that's not the only story shaking up the garage this week. On the other side of the paddock, one of NASCAR's most quietly dominant drivers just locked in his future with a team that is building towards something real. A multi-year extension that sends a clear message: RFK Racing is not here to just compete. They are here to win. Two stories. Two very different emotions. But both of them say something important about where NASCAR stands right now. Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you are going to see this sport in a completely different way. Before we get into it, if you are new here, welcome to NASCAR Report Today. This channel is built for fans who want more than just race results. We go deep. We talk about what actually matters. And right now, we are still a growing channel working hard toward a big subscriber milestone. If you enjoy real NASCAR storytelling, hit that subscribe button right now and join this community. Every single subscriber genuinely helps us grow, and I want you here from the beginning. Alright, let's go. On May 21st, NASCAR lost Kyle Busch at the age of 41. He passed away after complications from severe pneumonia that progressed into sepsis. It was sudden. It was shocking. And within hours, tributes began pouring in from every corner of the sport. Brad Keselowski spoke. Joey Logano spoke. Kevin Harvick spoke. Dale Earnhardt Jr. spoke. Broadcasters, crew members, former rivals, all of them came forward with memories of who Kyle was, what he meant to them, and the kind of person they knew away from the cameras. And in most situations, that kind of response is exactly what you would expect. It is what grief looks like in a tight-knit community like NASCAR. But Tony Stewart saw something different in all of it. And he wasn't willing to stay quiet about it. Speaking ahead of an NHRA event in Bristol, Tennessee, Stewart was asked how Kyle Busch should be remembered. It seemed like a simple question. The kind of question that usually gets a simple answer. Instead, Stewart delivered one of the most honest, raw, and emotional responses we have heard from anyone in motorsports in a long time. His message was direct. Too many people spent years judging Kyle Busch based on what they saw on television, and now, only after his death, those same people are suddenly talking about his character. And if you followed NASCAR for any significant amount of time, you know exactly what Stewart is referring to. Kyle Busch was never easy to like if you weren't already a fan. He was emotional. He was aggressive. He spoke his mind without a filter. He had moments on the racetrack that made other drivers furious. He had moments in interviews that rubbed fans the wrong way. He was loud, he was competitive, and he was unapologetic about all of it. Because of that combination, he became one of the most polarizing figures in NASCAR history. There was no middle ground with Kyle Busch. Either you loved him or you couldn't stand him. And for years, the negative perception followed him everywhere. But here is what makes Stewart's reaction so powerful, and so personal. Tony Stewart went through the exact same thing. Stewart built his own reputation as one of the fiercest, most intense competitors the garage had ever seen. He earned the nickname Smoke. He had his own list of on-track incidents. He had his own moments that divided fans. He was not someone who softened his edges to make people comfortable. And like Busch, he paid a public price for that authenticity for years. That shared experience is what made Stewart's words cut so deep. Because when he says people should have taken the time to actually know Kyle Busch while he was still alive instead of forming opinions based on television moments and headlines, he is not just defending his former competitor. He is defending something bigger. He is defending the idea that public perception and private reality are not the same thing. That the person you see during a post-race interview, or during a radio argument, or during an on-track battle, that is not the whole person. And Stewart is right. Think about how many times in your life as a NASCAR fan you formed an opinion about a driver based on one moment. A temper tantrum after a bad finish. A controversial radio call. A confrontation on pit road. One post-race interview where the emotion was running high and the words came out wrong. How many times did one of those moments define your entire view of someone? That is the pattern Stewart is pushing back against. And he is doing it at the worst possible moment, when the person being defended can no longer speak for himself. Now let's talk about the history between these two men, because it matters. Stewart and Busch competed against each other in the NASCAR Cup Series from 2005 through 2016. They were actually teammates at Joe Gibbs Racing during the 2008 season before Stewart departed to co-found Stewart-Haas Racing. So they weren't strangers. They knew each other. They competed alongside each other. And yes, they had their conflicts. In Las Vegas in 2006, Busch wrecked Stewart during a race. 3 years later at Daytona in 2009, Stewart returned the favor, turning Busch into the wall on the final lap. These were not two drivers who smiled politely and kept their distance. They competed hard, they frustrated each other, and there were real tensions between them at various points in their careers. But that is exactly the point. Even with all of that history, even with the on-track battles, the incidents, the competitive friction, Stewart understood who Kyle Busch actually was as a person. Because he was close enough to see it. He wasn't forming his opinion from the outside looking in. He was in the garage. He was in the same hauler. He was racing against him week after week. And that is the understanding that Stewart believes most people never allowed themselves to develop. What is also worth noting is how Stewart has carried this grief personally since Kyle's passing. He was photographed attending the Potomac Nationals at Maryland International Raceway wearing a hat featuring Kyle Busch's number 8. It was a quiet, personal tribute from a man who doesn't do things for appearances. And earlier this year, Stewart returned to NASCAR competition for the first time since 2016, driving a Ram truck for Kyle Busch Racing at Daytona. That connection between the two men ran deeper than people realized. Stewart's comments are uncomfortable because they force a mirror in front of all of us. Not just the media. Not just the people who were critical of Kyle Busch during his career. All of us. Every fan who ever booed him. Every person who ever said they couldn't root for him because of his attitude. Every viewer who saw one moment on television and let that moment become the entire story. Kyle Busch was a champion. He was a father. He was a husband. He was someone who drove over 100 times at the Kyle Busch Motorsports level to develop young talent for this sport. He was someone who his peers described, repeatedly and privately, as generous, loyal, and deeply passionate about NASCAR. But for a lot of people, none of that was visible through the lens that was being held up to him for most of his career. Tony Stewart didn't hold back. He didn't give the soft tribute. He gave the truth. And sometimes, the truth is harder to sit with than the tribute. Kyle Busch deserved better while he was still here. That is what Stewart is saying. And it is a message that this sport needs to hear. Now let's shift to a story that is about the future. Chris Buescher has officially signed a new multi-year contract extension with RFK Racing, ensuring that he will continue as the driver of the number 17 Ford for years to come. And if you've been watching what RFK Racing has quietly been building over the past several years, this news should not surprise you. But it should absolutely excite you. Let's start with who Buescher actually is, because there's a generation of newer NASCAR fans who may not know the full story. Buescher is 33 years old. But his connection to the Roush organization goes all the way back to 2009, when he first entered the Roush driver development system as a teenager. He spent years working his way through the pipeline, competing in the lower series, earning his stripes, and developing into a professional. He won the NASCAR O'Reilly Series Championship in 2015. He made his Cup Series debut and spent years building toward consistency. And eventually, he became the full-time driver of the number 17 car in 2020. Since then, the transformation has been remarkable. Buescher now has nearly 400 NASCAR Cup Series starts to his name. He has 6 Cup victories. 5 of those 6 wins have come with RFK Racing. And when you look at the team's recent history, he is responsible for 5 of their last 6 Cup wins total. He is not just a contributor to this organization. He is the engine driving its resurgence. The 2023 season was a landmark year for Buescher specifically. He earned 3 wins in a single season, making him the first Roush driver to accomplish that feat since Matt Kenseth did it 14 years earlier. Think about that. 14 years. That is how long it had been since a Roush organization driver reached that level. Buescher didn't just break the drought, he reminded everyone that RFK Racing still has the capability to produce elite results. And this season continues that trajectory. With 10 races remaining before the end of the regular season, Buescher currently sits 7th in the championship standings. He is inside the playoff picture. He is the only RFK Racing driver in that position right now. That means everything when it comes to the team's ambitions. When RFK co-owner and founder Jack Roush spoke about the extension, he highlighted Buescher's work ethic, his intelligence, and his dedication as the core reasons the team committed to building around him long-term. Those are not empty words from a team owner. That is a genuine organizational statement about where they see their future going. And then there's Brad Keselowski. Keselowski's praise for his teammate was striking. He described Buescher as everything you could want in a driver and a teammate, pointing to his professionalism, his preparation, and the way he helps elevate everyone around him. That kind of endorsement from a co-owner who is also competing in the same garage, for the same resources, for the same championship goals, that means something. Keselowski is not going to say those things unless he genuinely believes them. Buescher himself spoke about what RFK Racing means to him. He called it his home. He expressed pride in what the team has built together. He talked about his belief in the organization, the people in it, and the shared commitment to reaching the next level. Now here is why this extension matters beyond just one driver keeping his ride. RFK Racing is at a crossroads moment in their history. They have rebuilt from a period where the organization was struggling to compete with the top teams. They brought in Keselowski as a co-owner, infused new energy and direction into the team, and began a process of trying to build toward genuine championship contention. That process takes time. It takes stability. It takes continuity. Locking up Buescher on a multi-year deal is a direct investment in that continuity. You cannot build toward a championship every year if your lineup is in flux. You cannot build team chemistry, engineering understanding, and race-by-race improvement if drivers are constantly changing. The organizations that compete for titles consistently, the ones at the very top of the standings year after year, they have stability at the driver level. They build around people who understand the organization, who have relationships with the crew chiefs and engineers, who know how the team thinks and how it operates. That is what Buescher represents at RFK. He has been inside this organization for the majority of his professional career. He knows how it works. He has grown with it. And now, with this extension, both sides are betting on each other for the long haul. This is a move that tells you RFK Racing is serious. Not just about competing. About winning at the highest level. When you look at both of these stories side by side, you see two completely different sides of NASCAR, but they are connected by the same underlying theme. Legacy. Tony Stewart's defense of Kyle Busch is about legacy. About how we build legacies for drivers while they're still racing, not just after they are gone. About the gap between public perception and private truth. About what it actually costs a driver to compete at the highest level for decades, to carry the weight of performance and expectation and criticism, without ever getting the credit they deserve for who they are as a human being. Chris Buescher's extension is also about legacy, but a future one. About the kind of legacy RFK Racing is trying to build. About the kind of mark Buescher wants to leave on this sport. About the years ahead and what they could produce if the foundation is right and the commitment is real. Both stories are reminders that NASCAR